I know, it's intense. So
That I didn't
pretty common.
Yeah.
Lots of people do that.
Voice is not that big a deal. We get it all the time in school. My wife comes home with it. I'm about 9 and 6-year-old.
Kids.
Oh, that I got it. Now I was like, oh, Michael's so pissed. Why did they cut your hair? I told him Michael Jordan's bald, Zinedine Zidane's bald, I'm bald. You can be. This is important to get on tape. It's okay.
Hello, everybody. We're here talking to a couple volunteers in front of Benito Juarez, sort of migrant shelter, I think it's been called. It looks basically like a refugee camp at this point. We want to talk to some volunteers to kind of learn more about what sort of the needs are in this area and what people are trying to do to help. And also, Lorelei here says that they were at, I guess, when the tear gas was deployed against the migrants, including children, women and children. They were there, and they were willing to speak about that. So we're going to speak about that a little bit, and then kind of learn more about what the volunteers do here. So Lorelei, do you want to talk about that experience?
Sure, yeah. I was there on Sunday, and you know, the march, we were gathered, we were all peaceful. The real purpose of the march was to protest what the U.S. government is doing, because it's unlawful to deny and restrict access to asylum the way they are. And it started off very peacefully. What's interesting, though, is from the point that we were at until the actual port of entry, that is called El Charrapal, there are multiple pathways that will lead to El Charrapal, and every single pathway was blocked by military, like Mexican law enforcement, and it really seemed like the tactics that they were using were to divide, create chaos, create panic. It was very intimidating. They ended up separating the caravan through their own tactics. So part of the caravan went down into the canal where the Tijuana River is, and they were trapped there because gates that are normally open that would allow people to get across to the other side and walk across a plaza to continue the path onto the port of entry, El Charrapal, were locked. And so people were trapped in that area, and they were just standing and waiting peacefully when tear gas was deployed. I was also on the other side because it was really just two big groups of the caravan, because the distance for the canal, like, they just covered a big area. And so part of the caravan, we managed to go up a footbridge towards the port of entry, but every single entrance to the port of entry on the left was blocked, and Mexican immigration officials or Mexican law enforcement were racially profiling people and not letting people who appear to be Central American go through those barricades in order to approach Customs and Border Patrol at the port of entry. So we kept on walking, and it forced us to a piece of property that is slightly east of El Charrapal, the port of entry, which was a set of train tracks, and there I was present when we were all just sitting and waiting and singing and raising our fists, but there was no wall to climb. There was nothing where people could even pretend like they were trying to get into the U.S., and yet tear gas was deployed there as well, and in fact rubber bullets were also used, which we believe came from one of the helicopters that was hovering above the train tracks, and it was just a terrifying situation. Eventually the Mexican law enforcement in riot gear kind of trapped us and cornered us, and they pushed us off the property, and so we started marching back. And so that part of the caravan was able to meet up with the part that was stuck at the Tijuana River where the canal was, and then eventually, again, Mexican law enforcement and riot gear kind of cornered us and forced us into like a small space where we were just surrounded by law enforcement and pushed us out of that area as well. But at the end of the day, you know, everyone went back to the camp that is here where we are right now, and you know, despite all the pain and trauma that happened on Sunday, the march ended so beautifully because there was someone who was wearing a Standing Rock shirt, and he appeared to be Native American and was singing a traditional song and leading us with drumming, and it was so moving, and so many of us were just exhausted and terrified and tired, and it was an insane day. And the tear gas was just everywhere in the city. I mean, even people who are from Tijuana, nowhere near any of this. Like, it went for miles. I mean, it felt like miles. It might have been actually just like half a mile or a mile, but it covers a lot of ground. And I felt it myself, and it was just I can only imagine what it felt like when people got hit with that impact.
And you were saying you felt like somebody who was there, you were there on the ground, you saw everything kind of unfold. You felt like media got it all wrong. I mean, can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the media's gotten a couple of things wrong. One is I've seen some news outlets claim that Mexican law enforcement were actually doing the appropriate thing because they didn't use force. I disagree. It really looked like, from my vantage point, because there were multiple stations of Mexican law enforcement, and it really looked like their strategy was to divide, trap, create chaos, and it was amazing how much resources they expended to block every single entrance to a Caravan, because like on the path, if someone's here when you're walking and trying to go to that port of entry, there are multiple pathways to get that port of entry, and they had every single one blocked and monitored. And you know, and I haven't heard anything about the rubber bullets from anyone. And you know, and there's these assumptions in the media that people were actually trying to jump the wall. They weren't. Like, these people are not stupid. These are intelligent people who are capable of self-organizing. They're not going to try to jump an impenetrable wall. It was there as a protest, but despite protesting peacefully, we were tear gassed and, you know, shot at.
And so we wanted to first talk to you about that experience to kind of give our viewers a little bit of a different point of view than what they've been hearing. But also we wanted to talk about efforts here in this camp. As everyone came back from that march, or most people probably, as other people are sleeping around this area, but a lot of people came back to this camp. And as somebody who's come here now for 2 weeks, we've seen it just exponentially grow. You know, there's so many people here, and so I'm kind of wondering, what are the needs of this camp, and what have people been trying to do as, you know, as volunteers? What have you been trying to do to sort of mitigate, I guess, all these issues that are arising with such a huge amount of people showing up?
So the first thing I would say is this is absolutely a humanitarian crisis. There are thousands and thousands of people here with critical human needs not being met: food, sufficient shelter, medical needs are not being met sufficiently. There needs to be more of an international presence here.
Real quick, can I get like what was your name and like who you're volunteering for, or anything, information like that you want to give?
I'm Reverend Kent Mathias. I'm a Unitarian Universalist minister from Philadelphia, and I'm here with our National Service Committee. And the issues of people having their civil and human rights respected and enforced is critical right now. We're worried about physical safety, particularly of the females in the camp. We know that in history of refugees, a lot of times when there's this many people in unmanaged situation, that women get abused with violence, and so it is triage right now from the international community, trying to figure out what kind of social workers, doctors, lawyers, and people who provide medical, food, and shelter can do to help people hang in there as they are being denied the opportunity to apply for asylum. They're not being denied asylum. They're being denied their human legal right to go to the port of the United States and say, I am claiming asylum because my life is in danger. They have that right. We believe the administration is breaking the law and rejecting them from applying.
And can you speak a little bit to that, the difference of like just being outright denied, even being able to apply, like versus, I guess, not?
Yeah. So by not being able to even get the right to apply, it's creating a lot of consequences that are not like bright line legally defined, because what happens is that people are then here for longer. They're at risk of being victims of crime, because there are people who want to take advantage of these migrants. They are at risk of losing critical documents in this chaos that might be essential for their asylum claim. They are at risk if they have family members or witnesses in home country who might be critical for the case. You know, I've certainly had cases where, you know, witnesses have been killed, and then that also weakens the person's claim. That's why asylum is supposed to be adjudicated expeditiously, and that's why it's so critical that we not create this funnel, because the consequences are just infinite and they're all negative. And so it's just creating a really, really challenging situation. And the longer people are here, the less hope that they're going to have. So it's quite a difficult situation.
And what I guess what is your experience with asylum seekers and stuff like that? You speak really knowledgeably. I don't know if you have any background on it.
Yeah, so I'm actually an immigration attorney based out of New York City. And so I do a lot of work there, including with the Immigrant Active Response Collaborative, which is a collaborative that we created, a bunch of New York State legal service providers, basically to figure out how to defend our clients against this administration, because a lot of news about what this administration does against immigrants comes out, but that doesn't even touch the surface of how our work is impacted as immigration attorneys, because the government is really kind of engaging in abusive litigation against us and making our job so incredibly hard that even if our clients are eligible, because we have so many hoops to jump through now, it's just making it that much harder to win cases, and also give hope to our clients, which is a huge part of being able to win a case.
Yeah. So I just want to add that, we have a lot of good groups here working hard to meet people's needs, but in many ways it's a drop in the bucket. We see thousands of people who they don't understand what their legal rights are. They're not getting their needs met. In the history of refugees, this scale of humanitarian crisis would trigger more international involvement. Where is the United Nations High Commission on Refugees, Save the Children, Doctors Without Borders? The key, I think, that needs to be to help move those things along more is the U.S. and Mexico need to help get those groups involved. That's what they're there for. But obviously the Trump administration blocking this support, even on this side, it's unacceptable. So the American citizens should be pressing the U.S. government. This is a humanitarian crisis of the Americas. This is not Mexico's problem. This is not Tijuana's problem. This is all of us as citizens of the America. This is our brethren and sisters. We need to help them have their human rights and their civil rights enforced and have a chance at a better life.
Thank you for that. And what would you say about sort of this, like the recent moves by the Trump administration to sort of force asylum seekers to go through the portal? Like what is illegal about that, or if you explain that?
Yeah, so our asylum laws are founded kind of in treaties that a lot of countries recognize, because we all have different forms of different ways to enforce and provide asylum. Nowhere in our asylum law does it say that in order to win asylum you must enter lawfully to the U.S. I think what is really fascinating is that we're seeing all these people actually try to comply with the administration's request of going through a port of entry when they could cross unlawfully and still seek asylum with no problem. And I think it seems to me like a very intentional tactic to try to funnel everyone to one very small part of Mexico, because I think, remember, like the crisis in TJ is bigger than in any other city at any other port of entry, and that's because Mexico themselves bought a bunch of bus tickets for a lot of Caravan members and bused them to Tijuana, and it's really interesting because none of those are coincidence. There's a strategy there, and it's a strategy to really kind of create fear in the migrants, create desperation, and also to demonize them. Because if you put them in desperate situations like this, it would be very easy to take isolated photos that make it seem like they're doing something wrong, when in reality, they're just trying to survive.
Well, thank you so much for speaking to us. Did you have any last words you wanted to tell folks who are watching who may not have,
The main thing that I would say is that my personal perspective is that I feel safer amongst members of the Caravan here than I do amongst law enforcement, either on the Mexican or the U.S. side. It's absolutely inappropriate to demonize these migrants, and it's not founded in any version of reality.
Am I good?
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm Lorenzo.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for your work, guys.
Yeah. So we're gonna walk out, just show you the rest of the camp, and then we're gonna go down and So again, I'm Lorenzo with Unicorn Riot. We're talking a lot in the last article we just put out about the long food lines. Here is a long food line. And this is goes all the way down to where the Marines are kind of stationed. They look like they have 2 soup kitchens. I think that they do split them up by gender, but this is just one part of this line. There's multiple lines here. There's tons of lines here. Anyway, so again, this is a similar scene from yesterday. We were hearing that people think that they're like everyone's being deported. I haven't personally seen that from being here. If you looked at our article we put out today on unicornriot.ninja, you can see that there was a caravan that arrived yesterday, 2 full buses and a truck full of people. They're all really excited and we're celebrating because they'd come this far. They've been on the road for over a month to this place, and I'm sure that this place is sort of like, the reality of it is different from the perception of it, you know, and that's something you kind of see a lot. If you read a lot of like books, it talks a lot about the perception versus the reality, and I'm sure that this fellow feels like amazing to be here, but now they're here and they're learning that this place is extremely overpacked almost. There's so many people here. I mean, it is overpacked. There's so many people here, more arriving. As the people we just spoke to said, they're trying so hard to like figure out how to like mitigate these problems, but they felt that there isn't enough sort of put in from
it feels very
the governments, like the United States government and the Mexican government, as they should be working to get these bigger organizations in here, and it just hasn't happened, at least in their eyes. We also yesterday we're listening to people from the migrant camp itself who were giving a press conference saying that the press release was called like we don't want to return to violence. And saying to return to violence, you know, saying they don't want to go back home because that means they're gonna enter this situation of violence. One of the women who spoke, and it's quoted in the article we put, was talking about how even like here, at least they could try to have this march to let themselves be visible, so that people could see that they're here, that they need help, that they need these things, and they were met with violence. But they're saying that back home when they talk about their human rights violations, that they end up being killed and murdered, and they can't go back. But now they need help from any government who wants to help because they're just stuck in the stasis. And they did say very directly, one of the first things they said in this press conference, they're very thankful to the people of Tijuana for hosting them and giving them what care they could, but that our people are becoming impatient because they thought they'd be able to come here, and as you heard from the lawyer we just spoke to, would just be able to apply for asylum, even if they had to cross over illegally, as it's talked about all the time, but that also still allows them to apply for asylum. And as she was saying, it was very important information, is like the time frame of sort of like the things they have to prove that their needs can disappear. I was reading the book, they're talking about this piece of paper that showed sort of like the police letting this child out of prison after they kind of like went after him, and that piece of paper was what allowed him to get asylum. And he basically like had it for this whole month trek and like was able to show them this sort of proof. And so it's like things like that if that disappeared, he might not have been able to do it. And that's what she's saying, that witnesses who can talk to like their experiences can also be murdered. Like all of these things are happening at the same time, and they're all kind of happening as people wait here to be able to go to the border and apply for asylum. Okay.
Go on the side road or the other end.
All right, so we're gonna walk around a little bit more. I'm gonna check and see if there's any questions and stuff like that. Again, I'm Lorenzo. Oh yeah, I'm Lorenzo from Unicorn Riot. I'm your current host. We got Andrew on the camera. We got some back end from John Z. And we have a whole bunch of other folks on the internet who are helping out. So that's the Unicorn Riot organization. Thank you so much for doing that. Today we actually started the day by getting these like official press accreditations. And so I don't know if you know, when we first got here, we were able to kind of like walk up to the gate, show them our press passes, sign some stuff and go in. And then over time that changed, and now we had to go to like the city hall, the mayor's office, and sign up and kind of get a bunch of paperwork copied. And so you got here some volunteers that brought some clothes. A lot of people, I was like, how are people, as people are donating clothes to help each other out, they're helping humans out, they're sharing what they have. There you go. Clean clothes, thank goodness. This is also what was going on up at the Walmart camp. People were bringing clothes to help people who didn't have like the ability to like wash things easily or change easily. It's like it helps them out. And some donuts. Hello. You're saying if you're gonna film me, I'm still gonna charge you. You're gonna give me 10 pesos. Anyway, so yeah, so you got all these different groups. Here they're helping clean people's hair out. Garopatas. But again, you know, it's just like some lice in the camp. But like the guy said, he's a teacher, and the students get lice. It's a very common thing. We got all these children. ¿Dónde van? ¿Saben? Oh, qué bueno. Gracias, gracias. They're going to feed these children. That's where they're all going. All these children are about to get food. And so I was asking really quick. I was trying. It's like a weird line. Like I don't want to like ask somebody to force them into a conversation, but I do want to get information. So this line's still going on. We want to go this way, or we want to see them get food? Okay. So again, we've been here now for a few days. It's definitely transformed. It's definitely grown. I can't emphasize that enough. If you watch that video we put out, we used that drone footage that flew over the camp. That section of the camp, 4 days ago, was completely. ¿Cómo te va?
Una pregunta.
¿Qué?
Pero no en vivo.
No, está vivo, está vivo.
Ah, disculpe.
No puedo.
¿Está en vivo? ¿Les puedo hacer una
Right, somebody was just asking. That's how we're working. They want to talk right now. So we're going to move over. So we're talking about these like long lines. So I was trying to give you a sense of it. I don't think we had a good picture of it to put into that article, but this is one of the lines for food, and you can see it just goes on forever. They have some people who are selling some stuff. It looks like small businesses are being created. A small economy. Again, a camp usually creates its own economy because there's a lot of people trading in what they can. People need goods. And that kind of happens every time. So we have here like a small amount of like goods being sold by people from, I think, in the camp. And then right up here is the soup kitchens. We're gonna walk up and take a look. ¿A este lado?
¿En medio donde está el de negro?
Sí, está bien. Alright, so we're walking through the food lines right now. Wow. They're right behind, the food lines are right behind the porta potties. And so like the porta potties, like, it's really intense. Oh, that smells okay in here. Hola, ¿está bien para nosotros aquí? ¿Estamos bien aquí? ¿Para filmar? ¿Estamos bien? Sí, está bien. Gracias. Anyway, so here you have a soup kitchen. People are getting like hands out of food. It looks like a little bowl of noodles, and maybe, I'm not sure what's in the other cup. Looks like some broth or some sort. It's like a soup. So that's what people are getting to eat today. We're here and there's like, ¿cuánto veces al día? So yeah, so this food kitchens, at least they work twice a day, so they serve twice a day. There's other food that's being delivered, but at least for these, this is what they're trying to do here, and it's mostly, it looks like instant noodles that are being handed out here. You can look in the back there. It looks like those are all noodles right there in the big pot. And so yeah, so it's part of the effort that's going on. As Ken said earlier, there's just so many people. This is just a dent, like a drop in the bucket is how we explain it. So let's walk out, you think? Or we... Alright, you can shoot me. Alright. Alright. Look at that, handing out cookies. So I don't think yeah, so I mean, it's not a lot of food. That's like all the nourishment they're gonna get in one day. Oh yeah, then you have the Marines are kind of stationed around with different. You can see his rifle. He's kind of watching outwards. And the first article I wrote, that's what I was talking about. Is a station of Marines. You have them here with a very serious looking weaponry, looking out away from the camp. You can watch them. And so, again, people talk about how they're there to keep people in. But so also it looks very much like they're there to keep people out as well, or at least be able to monitor who's coming in and coming out. And they've been trying to increase that security, and that's why we got this. Gracias. So we're going to walk out again. These are these long food lines. Twice a day they're going to get some sort of food like that. Be a little bowl of noodles, and I think like a little bit of broth. Very good. Someone's excited. Comida. All right, so we're gonna walk out this way. The sun's coming in pretty good. Anyway, so you first walk up, it's like all the porta potties are there, and the snow is like drifting over. It's like as you're waiting for your food. That was pretty intense. Again, space is super limited. People are doing what they can with the resources they have, but it isn't very much that they can do. So this influx of people, and that's why they were saying they needed more help, more support from different organizations. That's what that person Kent was saying to us. 1 second here, gonna check. All right, so it's pretty much they continue to want to like walk out and then go down. Okay, so we're gonna continue walking out. So this is, like I said, thank you. There's just people there. I almost ran into a walker. So that's not beadwork. You know, there's selling up more shelters here. To our right, you can look and there's young kids. What's the food they got? They got a little bit of candy, it looks like. You want to go over here or over there and go down? Which one? All right, so we're going to kind of walk the way of yesterday. Again, if you saw that video, there was a truck that came in, people started pouring out. It came in over here, so we're going to walk out that way, and then we'll take the feed down. Again, I'm Lorenzo, I'm your host. We are Unicorn Riot. We're a non-profit media organization. Your donations helped us get here and bring this out to you, so thanks a lot for you all donating to us. We currently have a recurring donor drive if you want to check that out. And all your support will keep us doing the work that we've been doing, and thanks to all our supporters for just getting us out here. I can't say it enough. But yeah, this situation here is... It's pretty. I mean, it feels desperate. You know, just there's no real change that's seeming to happen. Just more people keep coming, and then it's just stasis and waiting lines. The people are being trucked out to apply for asylum. Everyone's saying that's been slowed down, and people just want, like yesterday at the press conference, one of the demands was like more information. Like they wanted more information, and we had heard that people felt that there was like people were being deported, and from what we heard, at least in that press conference, there was people deported by the Mexican government. There's a car coming right behind us here. We're gonna get out of the way, but it was about, at least in the press conference, that press release, there was like 161 people, and the people in the camp want to know who they were. They feel like they're not hearing about the people who are being deported. They're not getting information about what's happening, and so they can't even make good decisions. So the people here like want to have good information and be allowed to know what is possible for them, so they know exactly like how to move forward. And they're not even getting that. And now people are being disappeared. They're saying by not only the government but also by what they say is bad actors around the camp who are sort of waiting here, knowing that the people who are in this camp are vulnerable, and when they leave, they feel like they're being attacked and they have a chance of being attacked. So a lot of people, I would say, they're not forced to stay in this space, but there's a lot of fear of what happens when they leave past sort of like this perimeter of why they came together in a caravan. Was very much that, is that they provide safety in numbers and being together. And so that's why they came up here in like big groups, and they're still staying in this big group, waiting to see what decisions they can make over their own lives and where they'll end up going. A lot of them, of course, want to go to the United States. Others are just willing to go anywhere at this point. They don't want to stay here so much. So we keep walking. This is another line. I'm not sure what this line's for. I can try to ask. So this is another food line. So you have some food being handed out there, and then there's a food line here. So there's multiple food lines that the Marine sort of kitchens that offer 2 meals a day are being supplemented by, it looks like, other there's people coming to donate food in different ways. You can see this is a van that looks like it's driven up. And so all day long here, you'll see these lines forming as different people come and try to support the people here. Lines forming to get information. There's like a booth for people to sign up to be able to call their loved ones. You know, so there's just a lot of different efforts going on, but in the end, it's so many people that it doesn't seem to change. The days seem to kind of like repeat. Like here we are again. More lines, more people, food, and everyone's sort of just waiting for their opportunity to like I said, make a decision. And like they said during that press conference, they deserve to have the right information to be able to make those decisions, because these are all human beings who are able to do that if they're given information. And so it's been pretty wild to be here and, you know, so I witnessed this a person called a humanitarian crisis continue to just unfold, you know. And again, we heard a lot. There was, you know, like everyone's being deported and stuff like that. But I don't really think that's the case. And it seems like people are still coming. People are still here. You saw all those lines that showed you. And so again, we just wanted to thank you for bringing us out here and supporting us. And hopefully you're learning more about what's going on here. We're a 501c3 educational nonprofit. All of this is for educational viewing. All of it's non-commercial. You can share it. You can use it however you want, as long as you don't put a commercial on it or try to make any profit. And yeah, that's how it works. Creative Commons non-commercial. Here it all is. Thanks for joining us. I am Lorenzo, your host, and just keep following us on unicornriot.ninja.